Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen, wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidil Anbiya wal Mursaleen. This is Mujib Qazi and you're watching Washington Roundtable on Voice of Kashmir TV. I'm joined by a very special person who has ground zero information for us from what's happening in Afghanistan. It's a tragic situation. We had, human loss, monetary loss, as well as an irreparable loss that is happening in the region. But most importantly, while living here in the United States, how can we help? How can we extend our help to those who are coming as the refugees in the United States, so they are being settled in different parts of the country? So we will have the first-hand information from someone who is not only knowledgeable, but basically that is the only liaison we have in the United States between us and rest of the world and the people of Afghanistan. So please help me welcome a very special guest with us, Ms. Hurrunessa Farad, who is joining us from Washington, D.C. Hi, Ms. Hurrunessa, how are you?
I'm doing great, Brother Mujib.
Welcome to the show. Thank you for joining us.
It's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
My apologies for not giving you a complete, deserving intro. Can you go ahead and give us your background, please?
Sure, no worries. My name is Hurrunessa Faryad. I am Director of Outreach for Multi Faith Neighbors Network. I'm also Head of Outreach for the Al Dulles Area Muslim Society, which is the second largest masjid here in the United States. We're located in Sterling, Virginia, just about 35 minutes west of Washington, D.C. And yeah, I've been here for a couple of years. I grew up in Queens, New York City, so I moved down here into the quote unquote suburbs almost 17 years ago.
Well, sorry, what's happening in Kabul? I know you have your family back in Kabul, and what's happening. We are all mourning the loss of those innocent lives that were taken away yesterday at the bomb blast at the airport, and hundreds and thousands of people are at the airport trying to flee the country. What information do you have for the rest of the world to share?
So I'm not a reporter or anything from that background, but knowing that my family is still in Kabul and in Mazar Sharif, that's the place I was born in Kabul. My family and I fled during the Soviet invasion in the early 80s. And coming to the United States as a child, I was one of the fortunate ones to be able to come here and get an education and have a career and move on with my life and be in a positive situation. Not everyone's in that predicament right now. So we're getting a lot of different information coming in from all different sources, but that's usually what happens in these types of situations. But from what I'm hearing from my friends and their family members and my family members is that tensions are really high around Kabul and the other cities. People are really nervous and anticipating a lot of backlash, just waiting for that August 31st date to expire and the US troops to leave. And what's to come is a lot of anxiety for them because they're fearing for their lives at this point.
So we are talking about economical disaster, geopolitical situation, and unrest, and we don't know who would be in charge of the government and all that. Keeping that aside, how many refugees so far we have seen landing in the United States?
Oh, in the thousands. Every day there's planes coming in. Right now they're streamlining through Virginia in our area. So the masajids and the different organizations that are in this field are helping out to streamline them and making sure that their needs are being met. The Department of Defense is now in charge of all the undocumented refugees that are coming from Afghanistan here into Virginia. They are going through certain screenings at the airport. They get a COVID test, and then they're bused over to the expo center where they'll stay for a few days, and then they will be moved to different military bases around the area, and then eventually they will be going into their host city. So they're not all going to stay here in Virginia, but this is pretty much the depot that they're going through until they're permanently settled in another city. And of course, we're talking about humanitarian efforts here for them once they're out of custody, but the humanitarian efforts and the trauma that's going to go into play to for the people of Afghanistan while they're there is going to be at a level that I don't think we have seen in a long time. And I think that's what people are fearing. So it's not just a change of government, but the banks are closed. There's no money coming in and out. The infrastructure is being affected. Humanitarian aid is halted to a certain level. People are not being able to leave the country or come into the country. So everything's up in the air right now. So these two factors are playing a huge role in a lot of the confusion and also the scrambling that's going on within the communities.
There was reports coming from the airport that even the bottle of water was like $40, and a plate of rice with meat running for $100. I mean, that's a very, very dangerous and disastrous situation.
Yeah, there's a lot of inflation.
Yeah, a lot of inflation, and plus, if there is no food coming in and out, I don't know what other crisis that we can all think of humanly possible. But talking about here in the U.S., the government would only provide, if I'm not wrong, up to 90 days for have them to settle, and from there on they would be on their own. So a lot of probably nonprofit organizations are undertaking this project on their own shoulders to make sure that the public bear the cost of settling them, cost in a sense, providing with the very basic need. So, what information do you have that you can share with us?
So I'm currently working with one of the largest resettlement agencies here in the Northern Virginia area, and I'm working with them to put together a list and a whole program of sections that Afghan Americans can take part in and volunteer. So when these refugees are out and they're going through the resettlement agencies, their needs are being met. So whether it's finding them a place to live permanently, whether it's making sure their apartments are set up with the items that they need, or whether it's working between the different agencies to make sure that if there's donations that we need from one agency to another, that that kind of communication and collaboration is established, because it's not a one day thing and it's not something that we're only going to need right now. It's ongoing. And right now, my main focus is the resettlement of the refugees when they're out of US custody. There are a lot of people working on the ground to make donations happen and getting to the needs of the people while they're in custody. But we have to remember that DOD is in charge of that, and they're making sure that they're giving the refugees everything they need and they're not taking donations. So anything that's being collected right now, we're streamlining those into storage units or places that have storage space available, so that when they're out, we can distribute those items to them and for them so that they can at least settle and have some kind of consistency and a place that's, their own, that they could say, this is my home and this is where I belong.
I know there could be many challenges, but one of the most, I think, hindersome challenge could be the language problem and probably getting the very basic needs, the items that are not readily available. So I know you have the agencies are putting the list together, but for people who are watching us and they want to extend their help, what suggestion do you have for them? What should they have it prepared readily once they start welcoming refugees in their neck of the wood?
Right, that's a great question. And I think one of the things that people can do in their cities is reach out to their resettlement agencies within your city and see if they're actually getting a lot of the refugees into their area. And then through what they need, you can help out. Because a lot of times, if people are collecting stuff, you're not going to have access to the refugees coming in. They have a caseworker that's going through the resettlement agency. There's privacy issues. There's background checks for all the volunteers. So you can't just walk up to a refugee and say, hey, I have all these things for you. Let me help you. No one's going to give you that list, and they can't by law. So it's better to go through an agency and do things right and give them the things they actually need. And the agencies are better equipped to deal with that stuff. Now, once they're settled and you have a relationship with them, then it's a little bit different, and they come and see you at the masjid or outside and they ask for help. That's different, but that's not in the immediate future. So a lot of the things that we've noticed that they're going to need is furniture like beds, mattresses, sheets, pillows, clothing, shoes, household items for the kitchen, dining tables. But all of these are structured through the agencies because they have connections to different organizations that are actually collecting things like furniture, which you can't really store anywhere for a large group of people coming in. So it's important to go through these agencies so that you're not being redundant and you're not collecting things that are not going to be useful, because that's been happening in the last week. I was actually the Saturday that the first group came into Northern Virginia College campus in Annandale. People bought so many donations thinking that all these people are going to use it. None of it was given to them because, again, I said DOD is taking care of the needs of the people coming in. So all these donations were left at the college: diapers, formula, sanitary napkins, and you name it, it was there. Toothbrush, toothpaste, deodorant. And so the college started reaching out to people to take them because they did not want to throw the donations out. And I ended up getting somehow one of the trucks because someone gave them my name. And I literally just texted my friends in a group chat and said, hey, I need who wants to chip in to get a storage unit. And within 15 minutes, I was able to get $425 to get a storage unit for 2 months, a 10 by 30. And we got the truck there. Took 6 hours for us to empty that truck out and move the stuff in the storage. It's an organized mess in there, but at least the stuff is in there. And this weekend, a group of volunteers is going to go and organize that and clean it up and label everything in boxes. But it's a lot of work. It's not something that one person can do or a group can do. It requires a lot of organization and collaboration with other groups. But these are the things that the people are going to need in the coming days.
So there are some do's and don'ts that people need to follow. We all become emotional and then try to start making our own judgmental call and start gathering stuff that probably may not be used. So I would highly recommend that they follow your direction and instruction to make sure that they follow the guidelines that are given by the DoD and the other settlement agencies, making sure that go through. I would say that rather than just taking an individual approach, go through the organization that are functioning, that are working with the agencies.
Yeah, and it's a great way to volunteer and be involved properly instead of taking a whole bunch of people and saying, oh, we're from the Masjid and we're volunteers. Well, it doesn't matter if the Masjid has volunteers. The resettlement agency is not going to take your volunteers because they haven't been vetted. These people have to have a background check because you don't want someone who has a record of being, a sexual assault charges on them to go now work with minors or with someone who's, going to be in a situation that's going to be unsafe for them. So all these precautions are taken by these agencies so that the people who are interacting with the refugees have a good background check. So it's important for us to be cognizant of this, and there's a reason why it's there.
So based on your initial interaction with the refugees, who are the individuals out there in the refugees camps? Do you have families, male, female, kids, mixtures of everything? Do we have kids who don't have their parents with them?
It's a mix of everything. And a lot of people in the beginning were confused because some people were let out of the airport without going to the expo center. So the situation is that the planes that left Kabul had people who were American citizens, people Afghans who had U.S. green card holders, Afghans who are Afghan nationals from Afghanistan. They'd never been to the United States before. And all three of these have different immigration statuses, right? So, but they were all on the same plane coming here. So they had to go through a process of figuring out who has status here and who doesn't. So the people who came off the planes and passed their COVID test, who live in the United States, either green card holders or citizens, after their COVID test was done, they were let go of the airport. So those are the people who left the airport. Those weren't the refugees that we're talking about,
Mhm.
who are now going through to the buses and going to the expo center. So, the ones who are going to the expo centers are ones who don't have established U.S. Immigration status here in the United States. And then there are children, there are unaccompanied minors that are coming also. Some of them were in the mix of everything that was going on at the airport, were not around their families. They were, disconnected at some point. Some made it on the plane, some didn't. And so there's unaccompanied minors that are going to be coming in. The State Department and DOD is working around to making sure that they're safe. And I don't know the process of what's going to happen to them. And so I would hope that they're going to try to reunite them with their families, but I'm not really sure. It's case by case, and it just all depends what's going to happen. There are people who came with their families all intact. There are some people who just came with the husband, and the wife and kids were left behind. There were some women, I think, who came just themselves and their families were left behind. The scenes and the words from what I've heard are it was just a complete chaos at the airport. So the fact that families are torn apart right now is really heartbreaking, especially when you see people coming to this country who don't even speak English and are just trying to be safe, but they have no one and it's just them.
Probably those minors who came without their parents, and agencies probably look for families who want to adopt them, or maybe looking for the foster parents.
Well,
And
yeah,
generally people think that anybody can go out there and adopt a child. It's not that simple.
yeah.
What advice do you have for them?
If you're really interested, become a foster parent. It's quite a rigorous process. But I think right now for the unaccompanied minors, they're trying to make sure that first and foremost, they're doing what's in the best interest of these children. So I'm pretty sure there's a process of them trying to find family members here in the United States that would be able to somehow reunite the children with, or get foster parents who are Muslim or Afghan who can take them in. But again, this is a foster care process, it's not an adoption.
Hmm.
At this point, I don't even think adoption is on the table for any of them because, they have parents overseas. Somehow they got, you know, lost in the shuffle or they were sent by themselves. Whatever the case may be, it's going to be a very difficult process. But I think, the government is doing their best to make sure that these kids are safe and that they're around people who understand their circumstances and the cultural sensitivity that comes along with that.
So the best approach would be that within 90 days, make them self-sustainable and have them run their own life affairs rather than being dependent on others. Do you have any suggestions for the people who want to help them in that area?
Absolutely. These people are going to need jobs because 3 months is nothing. And so if you're a business owner or you work for a agency that can hire these people or somehow give them a way of making a living with respect, please reach out to these settlement agencies and work with them and figure out a way of how you can recruit the refugees coming in, whether it's the men or the women, any of the adults who want to work into your organizations. I think there's going to be a big push for this from a lot of different companies, knowing that there's going to be refugees coming in to all over the United States, that they are going to probably push to hire them. So I think everybody should get on it and make that way so that you're giving them a livelihood. They can take donations for so long, but at the end of the day, people want to work for their stuff. They want dignity, they want respect. And this is one of the ways in doing that is offering them a job so that they can get up in the morning and go to work and provide for their families.
And obviously, the children would be needing some basic language help where the is language can be spoken, and for the families who are with the children, and if some of them would be housewives, and they probably need some translators and others. So there's a laundry list of area where people can help beside just extending the monetary help, which is the easiest part. You can collect the funds, but how wisely those funds can be in turn spent where it will benefit these people who have a great deal of self-respect and they want to be independent on their own.
Absolutely. I mean, if you speak Dari or Pashto, reach out to the settlement agencies, let them know that you can help, let them know in what areas you can help. And they will always take help as much as they can, especially now with the influx of people coming in. So reach out to them, see how you can help. Money is the easiest way, but I'll tell you that that is needed also, because long term rent payment is something that's going to be an issue. And so we want to make sure that these refugees are covered for as long as possible through different charities that you can donate to. At the Adam Center, we started an Afghan relief fund for people to donate. That money is going to go 100% to the needs of the refugees. A lot of the other masjids are doing the same thing. Lutheran services here, social services that I'm working with on this project, is also collecting funds, but we're trying to make it where it's going through an organization. I'm begging people, please don't donate to individuals who are collecting money, because you really don't know where that money is going to go or where your items are going to go. Go through an organization, a 501c3, that can give you a breakdown of where they're giving the money to, and you can hold them accountable to that. Individuals, you just don't know. Once you give it, the money's gone and you can't really do anything about it. But organizations have a lot more people to answer to, and we can definitely get tap into where that money is coming from. So we don't want people getting scammed who want to help and then get turned off by knowing that they've given their money to someone that has not given it to the refugees. So do your homework. Make sure you're dealing with a trustworthy organization. But these refugees are going to need a lot of help, whether it's with translation, whether it's having friends, whether it's filling out their forms, whether it's taking them to the doctor or taking them shopping. All these things are arranged through the resettlement agencies. So please reach out to them, because they're the only ones that get access to the clients through the government. So when you go through them and they vet you out and they do a background check, you're going to be able to help the refugees firsthand. The masjids won't be able to do that.
Hurrunessa, thank you so very much. I know you are very busy. You have so much in your plate, and you have been on very many mainstream TV channels giving your best. We hope that these refugees will get the due help that they need from the community. We all need to be cognizant of that. We take the wise decision, right decision. Reach out to the organization that are credible organization and that are legit organizations. People would be needing jobs, cars to drive, obviously rent to pay, and groceries and other necessary items of life. But most important thing should be on the agenda, that we need to put them on their own feet within 90 days, and that should be our goal. Do you have your final comment?
I just want to say thank you so much, Muji, for having this talk and allowing me to give a little insight of what's to come and what the people need. I really appreciate it. But I just want to reiterate something that I said to somebody earlier today, is that, the United States has always been known as a country that welcomes the stranger and welcomes the refugee and welcomes those fleeing from war. No one who is in a safe place wants to leave their homeland and go somewhere else where they don't speak the language, where they don't know the culture, and leave their whole life behind. So I just want everyone to remember that these people are leaving their whole life behind. And imagine if that was you and you ended up somewhere else, you'd want other people to help you also. So give whatever you can. And sometimes people just need someone to talk to. And that's charity in and of itself also. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I would have to leave it beautifully closed. I would have to leave it there. Thank you so much. Take good care of yourself. Until next time. Good.